Hi, welcome to another episode of DAWNCast. My name is Kathy Ngo.
And I'm Dai Lee.
And today we are joined by, I'm going to stuff it up, sorry.
No, you won't. No, you won't.
Khunapong
Khunaraksa. Yes.
Do we get
Correct.
it? Yes. And I think that's the problem, right? Well, not that your name's not a problem, but I think I love different names. I wish my parents gave me a Vietnamese name because it just makes people more interesting, right?
Yeah. Well, I kept my Vietnamese name, so it's very long.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a great challenge, and just to say names. But then I think the more we kind of don't stigmatize it or be awkward about it, I think it will just start to be more and more normalized, I guess.
That's right.
But today we've got Khun. Hi, Khun.
Hi, Kathy and Dai.
Yeah, joining us all the way from Perth. For those who don't know, Khun is a water entrepreneur, and I'm really excited to have Khun here because water is an essential resource and a human right, and you've done so many fantastic work in this space. So we're really excited to talk about it. And also, how are you as well, during these COVID times?
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing actually very well during this challenging time, to be honest. I enjoy being home a lot and just spend time with my wife. So surprisingly, I had a good time staying home.
Yeah, I hear that it can be challenging for couples or families, suddenly to be found to be staying at home together on a regular basis.
Is she right next to you? Because you're like, I'm enjoying time.
Is she next to you? So what's water entrepreneurship, Khun?
Sure. So before I give what is water entrepreneurship, I want to kind of talk a little bit about how I got into water entrepreneurship, because I think the understanding about water is very important. And even nowadays, people are very, take it for granted that we have water use at home. So water is something that we need every single day. And it's our body consists of more than 65% of water, right? So water is definitely number one most important resources in the world, in my opinion. For entrepreneurship, I would share it like this. It's someone or a business that is working on water issues. It could be improving water resources, or could be helping us to have water use for the next 20, 30 years time. And for my own experience in the water entrepreneurship journey, I have been working to build new water programs. So I'll stop there a little bit first. So in case you want to ask any questions. Yeah.
Oh, great.
So you're saying that. So how do you then work? What do you do in terms of water entrepreneurship?
Yeah,
Sure.
how did you get into it? I know that you've shared with us that how important it is as a resource, but was this something that you thought, hey, I want to be a water entrepreneur when I grow up or something? How did
Not
it
really.
How did it start?
Because I was born in Sydney, Australia, and I also grew up in Bangkok, Thailand. And in these two countries, when I live in both these two places, I experienced severe water situation. In Australia, as you already know, we have been facing the drought problem, right? So drying out, water is running out. And last December, we actually, Sydney was increasing the water restriction up to the level 2. So that's for Australia. In Bangkok, on the other hand, there's so much water, Dai and Kathy, much water, and there would always be flood all the time. And growing up in these two countries, I was like, can't we just trade the water like this? Bring one water from one country to from Thailand to Australia. But in reality, we cannot, right? So when I was back more than a decade ago, when I was thinking about what I want to do for my grad school, water engineering came to mind, because I want to be part of the solution to solve these water issues. And as I enter into the industry, working in water, across the world. I used to work in the US and also across Southeast Asian region. One of the very good examples that I did was I built a new water program for water.org. In case you don't know what water.org is, it's a global water nonprofit organization working to increase access to clean water and sanitation. So basically, to help people have water use at home like us, right? So that was when my passion in water entrepreneurship was strengthened, because I went to the field and I see the impact of my work on people's life. And I always tell this story. I tell it many times, and I want to share it with you as well. I went to Jepara, Indonesia, and I met this lady. Her name is Juleha, and she didn't have a water connection at home. So basically, she had to pay for water to get water, right?
Wow.
And I remember she told me that she had to pay 50% of her income for water. So think about us. Let's say, I don't know how much we make, let's say 10,000 a month, right? We pay $5,000 for water. That's insane. And after she was part of the program, she got a water connection at home. And I went to see her again after she got that tap water. And I sit down next to her, and she shared with me that by having a simple thing like water at home changed her family completely. And while we were talking, Dai and Kathy, her son was just like picking up the tube, right, the water, and then just playing with water. I was like, wow. And she said, see, it gives my son time to play. So that's why I'm in the water space, and that's why I'm passionate about water.
That's beautiful.
So your water engineering means you are working on the structure or infrastructure to deliver water to homes, and perhaps can you talk a bit more about what this water engineering work comprises of? What does it look like?
Sure. So for water engineering, yes, you are correct. It's all about all the infrastructure. Let's say water treatment plant, how to build a water treatment plant, how to design it, how to construct it, and how to bring the water from the plant to the house, right? So that's kind of basic of the water engineering. But for myself, although my background is in water engineering, my experience is broader than that. It's more on the financing as well for water. And you might be like, what do you mean, like financing, right? So
well, we do have to pay water rates. I mean, we do have to pay water, like use of water. So
right.
Yeah.
It's about like water tariff, but also to make sure that around the world we invest in water businesses, right? Because there are 765 million people globally that lack access to clean water. And even like for sanitation or toilet, there are 2 billion people. So when you ask the question about water engineering, it's only one part of the equation, but there are many more, which is financing, government engagement, or programs on the ground, which includes community engagement.
That's really important about community engagement, because for some reason right now I'm thinking about Erin Brockovich, one of my favorite movies with Julia Roberts, and how like it impacts the community. Was it the movie where there's lead in the water?
Lead in the water. Do you remember that movie, Khun?
Yes, I do.
You probably watch it every day.
So do you advocate as well, besides your engineering work, when you talk about entrepreneurship? Is your aim is to ensure that everyone, around the world, as you said, have access to clean water, as well as have facilities to enjoy, obviously, the things that we enjoy. I mean, look, we've got water here, right? Bottled water,
right.
Sponsored by Belocca Water, which is clean.
Proper glass as well.
Yeah, that's right. And this water is from the bottom of the mountains at Mount Jinjabine, and is very clean, clear water. And I think one of the things we are lucky about in Australia is we do have access to clean water. And is something that you think that the rest of the world or other parts of the world don't have access to? Is that where your work is mostly?
Yes, correct. So in the countries that I work, there are water resources, but people don't have access to that, right? So when I advocate or talk about water, I talk about two things. The first one is water sustainability, which mostly apply to Australia, right? To make sure we have water used for the next generation. But secondly is the water access to help people who do not have water. And especially when we are in this challenging time, one example that I want to give you, which will give a better sense of why I think water is important. Let's say, Katie, let's say you go to the grocery store, right? You come back from the grocery store and you think that you need to wash your hand, but somehow your water was cut. You have the soap, but you don't have hand sanitizer. What would you do? Soap become useless now, right?
I'll lick my hands
that's
like a cat. No, I'm joking. I
Yeah.
wouldn't do that.
But yeah, so again, to your question, I think it's about water sustainability and water access for all.
How has COVID-19 affected water around the world? Has it affected much?
I think yes, correct. As I mentioned, this example about soap, most of the countries like Indonesia, Philippines, in the area, like rural areas that I work, they don't have water. So when this COVID-19 hits, it's kind of like a very difficult time for them, even harder than I could even imagine, right? Because they can't even protect themselves from the virus, right? And so that's for the community. The second part is the business, like new business, water startups. The expansion of the water obviously is frozen, right? Like other business. But on the bright side, though, like water utilities, this is the time that they need to step up their game and be, providing the reliable water for us. And I just read an article, I think it was last night, that a researcher in Australia is putting together a monitoring program for wastewater for the COVID virus in the sewage. So to help us track the virus, how it's spreading in the system as well. So although this is a very challenging time, but there's good sides and bad sides, right? From my personal perspective, I think when this is over, we as a water community will come together stronger than before to help solve this problem.
So what are you doing at the moment in terms of in that space of water entrepreneurship? What are some of the activities that you're involved in?
You're just doing consulting work, isn't it? Helping other, water entrepreneurs.
So I do two things right now. The first one is my own consulting business. I work with companies from the US to expand to Southeast Asia market. And as I mentioned, things are slowing down for that. What I normally do for them is to help them do put proof of concept on the ground with some potential partners to test out new solutions, and then hopefully have a longer engagement to improve water efficiency for water utility, for example. And then the second part that I'm doing in the water space is I'm on the board of directors of Gravity Water. It's a US-based water nonprofit working to increase access to clean water for children at schools. So that's why I say water access is something that I still work on every single day, talk with the head of the Gravity Water to help these students or children to have water drink at school.
Mm-hmm. Now your other what were you going to say?
I was going to say, in terms of the students, where are you? Where are these students? Where have you identified the needs of students who need to have access to clean water? Where are they predominantly based?
So mostly, you mean countries or areas?
Countries, areas, yeah.
So in Southeast Asian countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, for sure, those rural areas that the water grids cannot access to that, right? It's too far away that water utilities need to expand the pipes. So one school that I went early, last May, is a school in Kintamani in Bali, Indonesia. It was 4 hours drive from where I live, up the mountain, and was like the car broke down many times. So it's
Oh,
very, very
no.
rural.
And it's really
Yeah.
hot in Bali, isn't it?
Humid
Yes.
there in Southeast Asia. So predominantly, a lot of these areas of needs are in developing, as I would call it today, developing countries. Not so much in societies like the West, like Australia or the US or the Europe. I mean, we have access to clean water. Yeah.
But a lot of places in the US still don't have access to clean water.
Correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's more of a piping issue. I don't know why that was funny.
I don't know either. I thought we were going to continue on with the piping something. I don't know. Yeah.
So your other passion is also storytelling. How did you get into that? Tell us more about what you're working on.
Storytelling is something that I didn't know that I was passionate about, to be honest. It started like more than 3 years ago when I went to the Moth. I'm not sure you guys know the Moth.
Yeah, I love the Moth. It's a podcast.
Yeah, so I went there.
Oh, right. Okay, I'm thinking the moth.
Like not an actual moth.
No, I'm imagining a moth type tent. That's right. And you go into the moth. But I'm a passionate storyteller too. So should I go to the moth?
Yeah. I'll show you later.
Okay.
But it's a fantastic live show, and they record it as a podcast.
Right. We're doing it here.
Yeah, similar to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I went to the Moth event in San Francisco. It was just like 5 minutes from my old office. And I went to the event and had such a good time. Like I laughed so much and I cried as well. I remember listening to this story of a Japanese woman who got pregnant when she was doing her master's degree. And as you know, Japanese culture is very conservative, right?
Yeah.
So she went back to see her parents with her boyfriend, and it was just like the story just like hit me so hard, and I cried that night. And so I went to this like the Moth event so often, and my wife was like, "Kun, what's going on with you? You always smile like when coming back from this event." And I didn't know actually that it was the storytelling piece. But then fast forward to May last year, I attended a public speaking and storytelling workshop. And I gave some talks and I listened to what storytelling was about. And that's when I found out that actually storytelling is one of my passions. And then after that workshop, I have been organizing a workshop or talk or even give my own tell my own story every single week. And that's what I love being doing so far. Yeah.
I think we all were raised by our parents and grandparents. I don't know about you, Kun, but I remember my grandmother telling me a lot of stories growing up. And just little stories that kind of shape you, I think, as an adult as you grow up. And for me, I love storytelling too. And I'm back at doing what I love doing, which is getting people to share their stories and tell their stories. And that way we have a conversation rather than kind of the questioning of the Q&A. That's really
straight up Q&A.
Yeah, Q&A, the kind of grilling. It's about really peeling it back and understanding that other person, their journey and how they got to be where they
like
they
what
are.
shaped them to be who they are. And you remember those stories. Like you don't remember, you remember the story in it, not really what they say.
That journey.
But you posted something really beautiful about your mother. Do you want to share that on LinkedIn?
Sure. So I just posted a picture of me sharing a photo of me and my mom for the first time to public, and that was only 7 months ago. It might sound very normal to both of you, but my mom was physically disabled since I was born, and I felt like embarrassed of having her as my mom when I was growing up as a child, right? And not until that particular moment that I overcame, the shame of me feeling like that, and I showed it to the public. So it's something that, it took me a long time, 34 years to overcome, but I'm glad that storytelling helped me as well to overcome that kind of feeling.
So what was it then that made you made the decision to share that?
It's because I think for me, it's okay to be vulnerable. And for me, like I used to seek out for external recognitions and, like recognition like that I'm good. But after I after I learned that actually life is all about like your own self-compassion, and I spend time looking at my my life history recently as well, 6 months ago, to really understand about all this, like what my parents did to me or like why they did it for that. And it just like the reason why I want to share is like I have a very unique life experience. I want that experience to inspire other people and help them think that it's okay to be different. And you just have to embrace who you are and do your best with the condition you have.
But what moved you to share it? Like, if did something happen that really then made you say, "I have to share this"? So, did something else that push you to do that?
I think it's the what happened to myself, right? It's like because I overcame that feeling myself and it changed my life completely. I became a different person like from 6 months ago. Like, and I think that is something I wanted to happen to other people as well. Like, I'm not sure, like, people have different life situation, might not be the same, but at least if they have some kind of connection to my story, it will help them think differently and do something like, let's say, for example, in this case, spend more time with their parents when they can. Like, I don't have any living family anymore. Like my brother, my dad, my mom passed away already before I turned 30. So it's just something small, like, like spending time with your family is something that I always want to have right now, but I can't. So
Wow. I almost cried.
Thank you for that. So for you now, then, having discovered that you can be vulnerable and that you, and are you okay with being vulnerable?
yes, I am. Yes, I think, and it's very hard, to be honest, for my first time stepping on the stage. That was like in last November, to tell my whole story, what I discovered about my family. Right, I was super nervous actually, and to even be vulnerable. But what I found was like when I stepped on the stage, I was nervous at first, and then during the stage, all these eye contacts that I have, let's say like with the audience, I that it just gave me that energy, like it's something just like light me up, that when I share my story, it's the feeling that I feel fulfilled to like myself, right? Like sharing this to the world of people. And after the like I shared this story to people, many people came to me and say, "Hey, Kun, when you were just telling the story, I text my mom. She was in Finland." I was like, wow. And it just like, that feeling, it just like hit me, and I just want to do more and more and be vulnerable.
Yeah, it
And
sounds like you created your own moth experience, but for other
yeah,
people. And
yeah,
it shows that you shared a really beautiful story and you truly connected with everyone. It's beautiful.
right.
Did that then change the way that you work in the water entrepreneur space? Like, you've been a water entrepreneur,
Mhm.
but discovering yourself and discovering that vulnerability, how did that shift the way you were doing things in that space?
Sure. So it shift definitely my thinking. So when I work in the water business, like in the water sector, I used to be like, it's like my professional life. I treat it as a job. I felt good when I went to see people in the community, but I didn't really think about like the story behind that, what actually changed their life, like Juleha example that I gave to you, right? So after I become more vulnerable in so like for the work that I do, like the gravity water, for instance, I always tell them to you can't just like tell like you build a system for a school. You need to really share what you do on, the work that you do that impact people's life. You need to convey that to people that is sitting like miles and miles away, to bring that moment or that picture right into the living room, for example, right? And just make them connect and understand why we're doing this. It's not about like we want water, right? But it's more on unlocking the opportunity for people. And I think that's very critical. And I can spend hours and hours unpack that opportunity word only. But yeah, like my work become more authentic, I would say.
So where to now for you?
For me now, I'm planning to share more of my personal stories, one stories at a time. And one of my goals actually for 2020 is to do a TEDx talk. And I want to share my lesson learned and my unique life experience with other people to really get a different point of view and do things differently. For my water work, I'm going to continue to work in the water space as well, to advise my clients or the organization that I'm on the board to expand their work to reach more people with access to clean water and sanitation.
So for our listeners, how can people reach you?
Do you want people to
reach me?
Do you want people to reach you? Reach out to you?
Of course. People can email me at khunapong@gmail.com or hit me up on LinkedIn or Instagram as well.
Okay. Last question.
I'll just give you the link.
Yeah. We'll share the links to your contacts. So last question. Do you like your water still or sparkling?
Yes, still or sparkling. Because we've got a wonderful water company here, Australian owned called Beloka, who've come on and supported the DAWNCast work. So we drink here. So
you're having sparkling
I'm
today?
having sparkling today.
I'm having still.
Yeah.
Still, for sure.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for jumping in. And that was Khunapong. Sorry.
Khunapong Khunaraksa.
I'm going to get in trouble.
Khunapong Khunaraksa. Thank you.
Khunapong Khunaraksa.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
for joining us.
Kathy and Di, for having me today.
Thanks for joining us.
Great.
Thanks.
Oh.
Well, see you there, DAWNCast. Please, if you like and want to hear more content like this, please click the subscribe button below and join us for our next conversation.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
Bye.